Hey guys, I'm back. So I hope you guys enjoyed my last video. I did the interview with Jaime Cruz of Save on House Taxes. So really important dates to remember is one is May 16th is the last day to protest your taxes. That is Texas-wide. I think it's a Texas law. So for every single county in which you have a property in or that you live in or own a property in, you need to protest your taxes by May 16th. And one of the things that I forgot to I did mention, but almost forgot to mention was the fact that it helps everyone. So you're doing your best. You're doing all your neighbors a favor by protesting your taxes because of what's called, I think, unequal appraisal value. So the county actually looks at the values around the neighborhood and then can take that into consideration whether or not you're overvalued, or your neighbors, they'll take your value and consider whether it's overvalued or not. So I think if everyone does their part of protesting their taxes, then it helps everyone, right? So it's a team effort. May 16th is the deadline. I think the worst thing you could do is do nothing. I think everyone needs to protest their taxes. The value that you have is an unrealized gain. It's not even a true value. No one came to your house to do an appraisal on your house. There was some kind of system generated that took into several considerations, most notably probably the most recent sales, which the house may be better than yours, and they took that into consideration. So whether you do it yourself, you can certainly do it yourself. And as I mentioned, I've done it by myself in the past instead of using a service. I didn't get the results that I wanted when I tried to do it myself. Maybe you can do it better. But I feel like the time and effort that I put into it in order to protest the taxes took too much time, and I was happy to pay a service for it. And not only that, there's no upfront cost of fees with Save on House Taxes. They only earn a fee of 50% of the tax savings that they actually get for you. So there's no upfront fee, no upfront cost, and if they're unsuccessful, they don't even earn anything. I was actually even able to secure a discount for everyone using the link at unrealizedgaintaxes.com. So instead of 50%, it'll be 40%. If you go to their website, you sign up, it's gonna be 50%. Use my link, it'll be 40%. And through my conversation with him, I think there's a lot of services out there more recently that are charging upfront fees. So be careful with those. I don't think historically, he's not the first service that I use. I've used a service way back, I think a well-known one. And they also did not charge anything up front, but he said some of the service more recently has started popping up where, there's a sign-up cost or something. You shouldn't pay anything up front without any kind of guarantee of actual savings. So again, May 16th, very big date. Do not forget. If you miss that deadline, if you watch the video, there may be an opportunity for you to still protest, but very unlikely. So do not miss that deadline, May 16th, whichever county your property or home is in. So one of the things I want to talk about, or I actually have a lot of things that I want to talk about, but one of the more recent things this past week that happened was I had a closing. And before I get to that closing, just want to tell the story. I remember in one of my graduate classes, I want to believe it was an accounting class, but I can't even remember what the original question was, or I remember what the original question was, but I don't remember what the response from the professor, what the answer was he was looking for. But ultimately, I want to say it was an accounting class, but it doesn't make any sense as in an accounting class. But anyways, I believe the question was, what is a characteristic that every person have on this planet, right? And one of my good buddies, his name was Matt. He raised his hand, and I think everyone was looking around, and my buddy Matt, he raised his hand. This guy, we're in school together. He was actually from the Air Force. He's a little bit older, and I actually I think there's a reason why I found his response interesting, right? And to state, first off, he was in the Air Force. So he was in the military, came out of the Air Force, and he was actually in graduate school. And his response was self-preservation. And I was like, the professor was kind of taken back about it. He kind of laughed about it. And like I said, I don't know what the response he was, I can't even remember what the response he was looking for, but it really kind of hit home. And one of the reasons why, like, if you ever watch like Black Hawk Down or any kind of military movies, right? There's, if like the military or a certain group of guys in the military, they're on a mission, right? There's the mission, and then there's a guy standing next to you, and there's always this understanding, like, once you get into a gunfight or in some kind of battle, the mission is second, right? The guy next to you is the most important thing, making sure that he gets home to his family and stuff. But so when my friend Matt, and I think this is why one of those things where like it just stayed with me when he answered this question was, and his response was, self-preservation, which, selfishness and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting because, as I said, he was in the military at the same time. Anyway, so that's always kind of stuck with me, and I will tell you that I've used ever since then. I've kind of looked at a lot of things in different ways. And one of the things I do always look at is trying to understand why people do certain things, right? And sometimes absent of a reason why someone acted a certain way, or I can't figure it out, I default to self-preservation. I've actually told a few friends that I never understood, I never knew how people took it, when I told them that, but that's always kind of been my default. Like if I don't understand, if someone acted a certain way that, caused harm or to someone else, that I defaulted, and if I don't know the reason why, and like for example, a reason for money, again, it goes back to self-preservation, greediness, selfishness. Anyways, so I had this closing, right? And it was kind of interesting. So I closed on a house this past week, and kind of doing a real estate speak here a little bit, is that we're closing out a title company, and this title company, I think 1 week prior to the closing, they were asking for my CDA. So CDA is called as commission disbursement authorization, where it tells you, it comes from the broker, right? So my broker's Real Broker, and it tells you what percentage Real Broker gets and the amount of what percentage I get, and they do all the math. And this is the amount of money that I get from the closing. This is the amount of money that needs to go to Real Broker for their fees and stuff. So this title company, actually, I went back and I looked at it. They asked me 3 times for my CDA. And I was trying to get it together, and I was a little bit slower on it because I missed a couple of items. So I was trying to go back and clean up my paperwork in order to get my CDA in, right? And this is kind of bad, but I don't really, I don't keep up with my closings very well. They just sort of happen. And I knew that this property was supposed to have closed, but I didn't really keep up to see like, hey, did it actually close? Did everyone sign? Did it fund and all this? I didn't get an email, and I think it was like 2 days after the day that we're supposed to close, and I believe we closed. I emailed the title company, and I was like, hey, did we close on this property? And I was like, if we did, then can you send me like the settlement statement related to it? And did you send the wire? And so she responded back, and she said that like, hey, here's the settlement statement, which they're supposed to provide anyways, right? So kind of crazy that generally when you close at a title company, and the moment it funds, they let all parties, buyers and sellers, agents and everything know that, hey, we're funded, completely closed, we're good to go. So I didn't get a single email about this closing at all. So I sent the email. She actually responded back like, yes, we closed it. We did close on the day that we're supposed to. And that here's the settlement statement, so attached. So, and that was fine. I didn't really put much into it, right? So a few days later, my administrative person from Real Broker, my brokerage company, they emailed myself and the title company like, hey, did this close? And can we get the documents along with, the confirmation of payment to Real Broker? And I was a little surprised that this was not sent, right? So all these instructions, how to send it to the broker, the brokerage and stuff, is all included within the CDA. And again, I mentioned that this title company had requested a CDA from me for like three different emails requesting CDA. They're like such in a rush, like way before to get the CDA, and they didn't even send the documents to, or at least I didn't think they sent the documents, right? So my broker sent the email to the title company, to the lady, right? And I didn't see a response. I think I waited a day to the next day, and I didn't see a response come through. So I just, copied everyone, forwarded back to the title company, and the lady like, hey, did you get everything that my brokerage needed? And then she responded to the original thread, and what she attached was the email that she sent to me after I had requested the documents. And I just kind of thought to myself, I'm like, it almost feels as if she's like attaching this email rather than responding to their actual email, that like I was holding the documents up. And I just felt that odd, that like, why didn't she just, if she had sent it previously, which I wouldn't have known if she sent it or not, then just like, hey, here's the old email. But no, she actually packaged what I had sent. And I was gonna let it go. But what the title company sent to me was only the settlement statement, right? And if you actually read the CDA, they want confirmation, like, the FedEx, it will send via check to send the FedEx tracking number, or if it's sent via wire, then give them the wire confirmation number. So when she responded back with the email, she packaged my email and responded with that. It only included the settlement statement. It didn't include the other items that they requested. So being the person that I am, I just went ahead and I responded back to the title company and everyone included, did you receive the CDA? And the reason why I asked that is because if you received the CDA, which I know she did, then there was, like I said, there's instructions on there on what you need to do as the title company. And then what's funny was that the title company responded and said that like, oh, we apologize. The funding department didn't do their job. So I was like, wow, this lady here, she originally, when she originally gets called out, she packages like the email that she sent to me, which doesn't include everything that's needed, and sort of like places the blame on me. And I don't want to make an assumption, right? But I am making a slight assumption because she didn't respond to them directly. She just packaged and kind of put it on me like, hey, I was holding the information rather than sending it on to my brokerage, which is not the case. Like, as the title company, her responsibility is to do her part also, which is send directly to my brokerage according to the instructions in the CDA. So, and then, on her next excuse was because the funding department, they didn't do their job. I was like, wow, okay. So this lady doesn't want to take any accountability, any kind of responsibility for, I guess her errors or, whatever she didn't do. Now, what was even more interesting, so then a few days later, I keep getting emails back and forth between my brokerage and the title company. And they still had not received the check related to, the closing. And generally, like I said, they're normally sent FedEx. They're not sent through normal USPS snail mail, where it'll take 5 days, up to 5 days sometimes. So it's sent via FedEx generally, and it's usually overnight. So they hadn't received the check in a few days. So I see my brokerage confirming with the title company, like, hey, what address did you send it to? So they actually sent it to the completely wrong address. They sent it to the local broker address here in Texas, and not even in the address that was on the CDA. So I guess my point is that, well, number one, she asked for the CDA 3 different times. She got it, but she didn't even look at it, which I found very odd, right? And then she sort of tried to place the blame on me, that as if I was holding information for my assumption. And then when that didn't work, she ended up blaming the title company. for, or not the title, I'm sorry, the funding department, which, I don't think if I were to guess, I actually never been into her office or anything, but I don't think their title company is a very large company where there's multiple offices or anything like that. So I just thought it was very strange. So, one of my big things, I was like, dude, like this, take some accountability or take some responsibility. And my point to this was that the title company does not work for my brokerage, right? So even though if she had done everything wrong, there's nothing that my brokerage actually penalizes for her. Like there's no resulting action if she did mess up. But she found a way to kind of weasel out of any responsibility related to the fact that no documents were sent, the check being sent to the wrong place, and then they end up actually wiring it. So there's wiring instructions on the CDA, and without not even reading the one document in which they requested me 3 times from. So I thought it was very it was very unusual. I was kind of a little bit in awe about the whole thing, that like, hey, just own up to it, find the solution, just kind of move on. Anyways, one of my big things is that I just think there's a lack of accountability amongst people in general. So I think it's just easier if if you mess up, own it, and then move on and try to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. Which kind of comes to my next story, right? So actually, I have a friend that more recently got into real estate, and I think he's bought maybe 3 or 4 houses, and then on this last one, or the most recent one, it was actually the house with the greatest amount of repair work needed. Whatever numbers he ran, he felt like the deal for the house was actually still a good deal. And he actually got a bid from a contractor, right? So like I said, I fixed a lot of houses, and I saw his bid, and I was like, no, there's no way he can do it for this price. And that was my response to him when he sent me the bid. And I spent the time, I looked at it, I'm like, and for me, like, just knowing, labor may be different. Maybe I'm paying more for labor than I should, but I know the price of materials in general, right? And just like looking at the price, I'm like, there's really no room for labor. I know what materials it would need, and there's really not a lot of room. And he kind of came back and told me, like, the contractor promised that he could do it. And I was like, if you believe it, that's cool. I've never talked to this contractor. I wouldn't know. If you talk to him, you believe him, I mean, if you want to, but like, just from my perspective, I don't see how it's possible, right? Fast forward 5 months, house is behind 3 months from being done. He's already paid the full amount for the house to be fixed, that according to the contract. The house is not done, it's far from being done, and he's 3 months late also on fixing the property. So it's supposed to take 2 months. It's already past 2 months plus 3, so 3 months late. And my friend's hurting. And it sucks because I sort of told him already. And so what's funny about this was, so this all happened the week before, right? So last week. And then the week before last week, my friend had actually texted me, and I didn't respond to his text. So I didn't respond to his text 2 weeks ago. And if you guys know me, I really believe my phone has become useless at this point, because I'm looking at my phone right now. Like, I have 347 unread text messages. I get an unbelievable amount of spam calls or suspected scams or potential fraud. They're all actually all labeled on my phone now. So I get them so much to the point where, and then I get even not just phone calls, but even text too. So like, when my phone buzzes or anything, I really don't even look at my phone all that much, and I just really kind of focus on my task at hand. But anyways, so my friend texted me 2 weeks ago. He wanted to talk to me, and I just, whatever I was doing, I forgot. I forgot to respond to him, right? And then last week, I sent him a text. I'm like, yo, like, what's going on? And he ended up, the guy's not finished, right? And he promised that he'll be finished on April 28th. So in 5 days from this video, right? And I was like, have you paid him off already? Because like I wouldn't pay him anymore if you still owe him some kind of money. And then he's like, I reluctantly gave him money. I'm like, so how much did you give him? And I have all these texts here. And he's like, I gave him like another $2,000. And I was just like, why would you do that? You know? And so that was our conversation. I basically told him like, yo, um, in a different way, in a blunt way, right? I told him that like, dude, that wasn't a smart move on your part to give him additional money. And this is, and I'm getting to the interesting part about the funny part about the story. So, basically told him he was a little bit of an idiot for giving this guy additional money when this guy has shown to never live up to his end of the bargain ever. And I was like, why would you give him more money? So I told him that like he was kind of an idiot for doing that. And he's like, yeah, he feels terrible for trusting this guy, but he doesn't know what to do. Anyway, so that like we had this conversation on text early in the morning. And then like 4 hours later, like on the dot. And I just thought it was really funny, but he sent me a text. Like I try to text you, I tried to talk to you last week when I was really stressed. And like that's all he said. Um that's all he said. I just thought it was, and I laughed at it. I feel bad. I laughed at it. And the reason why I laughed at it was because he was sort of blaming me. Like he was really stressed. He was trying to reach out to me. And since he wasn't reach out to me, he ended up giving this guy an additional $2,000 that he shouldn't have given him. And I was just like, and that's all he said. He literally just thought there that he was trying to talk to me. He was really stressed last week. I didn't respond or anything. And my point was kind of going back to like taking responsibility, being accountable for yourself. He just sort of blamed me. I didn't respond or anything. I was like, dude, like, are you really gonna put this on me? The fact that because you couldn't reach out to me, so you went ahead and gave this guy another 2,000 to do something that you already paid him in full for, and he hasn't done. So like, it was terrible. Anyways, and it was funny because I was telling the same story, in real time to one of my staff, and I will tell you that I was like, yeah, I mean, I would never pay this guy another, any additional money unless he does his part. And in all honesty, I wouldn't even talk to this guy again. Like I would just cut my losses, right? Sometimes you just got to know to cut your losses, unless he came through and finished the job, and then like, hey, now, you earn some of my trust back. And what's funny was that I actually had the same story, and I totally forgot that I told my employee. The story was that I actually had a video editor that I actually paid a sum amount, a full sum amount, right? This guy had done some work for me. I had like 30, 40 videos to be edited. And I told him like, hey, this is what I was looking for. Like, hey, edit these videos and then upload them onto YouTube on a weekly basis. I think he did like one the first week and then like didn't do another one. And I was like, hey, asking him like every week. I was like, hey, well, you're not uploading my videos. And then he finally like kind of came out and was like, hey, it's taking a lot longer and he'll need additional $400 to finish everything. And let's say I didn't respond. I was done, because I've been trying to get this guy to do what he was supposed to do, what I paid him to do. And I paid him up front too, which is my mistake. And I shouldn't have done that, but he did do some work for me before, and he always came through, and he came through in a very good way. So I kind of had my trust in him, but he came back, asked for more money, but he hadn't done his part yet, And after he asked me, he actually sent me an invoice so I could pay for it. And I'm like, fuck, F that. I'm not gonna pay you any more money. Let's do your part. And to me, like, I've been asking this guy. So I didn't even respond. So I had been asking this guy for over a month to do what he was supposed to do. He didn't do it. So to me, I didn't even respond because I didn't even feel like I wanted to waste my effort of asking this guy to do something and have some kind of expectation for him to do something that he just has not done at all a single time for over a month now. So and she actually reminded me because I told her the story, and she's like, you know, you done the same thing, like you've done this before. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, totally forgot that. I didn't even talk to my video editing guy because he asked for more money and he hadn't done his part yet. So I just cut my losses and then moved on. Like, dude, from my perspective, you're not going to earn another dime for me unless you do what you said you're going to do. And then at that point, if you want to ask for more money, like, hey, you know, it came up really bad in the hole on this one, can I get a bonus or something? I've definitely taken into consideration, depending on the kind of work you did and the work you provided based on what I had asked for. You went above and beyond, sure, why not? um you know, I thought it was a reasonable rate, like, you know, and the additional money that I was requesting wasn't anything crazy, right? But just the fact that he just kind of ignored my request or just kind of found reasons why he wasn't able to do what he was doing. I don't know if they're lies or not, but I just had enough. And as I guess at one point in my life, I learned to cut my losses and just kind of move on, and just wasn't worth my time anymore. Anyway, so that was that story. And then so I guess kind of going back to what I'm saying was that you know, accountability for yourself and kind of acknowledging like, hey, you messed up and moving on is, I think, is a very important trait. And the other thing is that, like, hey, you really got to be careful, you know, when dealing with people, especially with money. You know, my friend's in a very bad situation in regards to money. You know, in regards to the title company lady, you know, I just didn't think that she had any negative resulting action if she even just owned up to not doing her job. But rather than doing that, she tried to throw me under the bus, try to throw her funding department, if that even exists, under the bus. And to me, for what? You know, like, just so you can say that like you didn't mess up. I don't know if that helps people sleep better at night, but I just think like, hey, if you mess up, just own up to it. And that's kind of all I had. So you know, number one, be careful who you're working with. And number two is you gotta learn to cut your losses. And also number three, as I said from the beginning of the video, May 16 is the deadline to protest your taxes. Be sure to get it in, do not delay. It's actually super easy if you're gonna sign up with a service. I think it's like a one-page document, or you're gonna do it yourself. I think it's rather quick also through HCAT's iSettle program. Until next time, hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.